Hello and welcome back to Andy's Cavern. How are we all doing tonight out there? All well, I hope. We've got a special treat for you tonight. We've got four fantastic guys on here in Andy's Cavern, four fantastic guests. We've got Captain Bob from Canada's Boxing Channel. We've got esteemed boxing trainer and pundit Julian McGowan. Esteemed boxing writer Jamie Albrecht.
Xboxing writer, but yeah, thank you, Andy. Cheers.
And,
Xboxing
num-
writer.
and number one, Ireland's number one boxing fan, Gerry from Ireland. How are we getting on, guys? Are we all well?
Good man, good.
All
Good
good,
to be
mate.
back in the cavern.
Back in the cavern, it's like a sweat house in here. It's absolutely roasting, but it could be worse if it wasn't insulated. It'd be even hotter. My chocolate bars would all be melting, so that wouldn't be any use, would it?
That's the
Yeah,
most
man.
important thing.
Drinking chocolate. Um, the first thing we'll have a quick look at is the David Morell Eman Katy fight, which Bob and I watched last night. 4,000 miles apart, but we watched it together. I think you were 15 seconds ahead of me, Bob, if I remember.
Yeah, for some reason the streaming wasn't synced. It was kind of weird because Andy and we were watching it, and I yelled out at one point, and Andy's like, "What?" And then 15 seconds later,
That's because you were closer to action than I was, probably.
well, this is it, right? It was in New York, so it's got to work its way through all that little streaming stuff, and it gets to Canada quicker than it gets to Scotland, I guess.
That's it. It's all that water.
Yeah, I mean, Gerry, who works, has more knowledge of IT than us, maybe can explain it.
Well,
I'm
sometimes
just
there is a
looking,
delay.
I'm
Um,
just looking at Gerry's hand there.
Gerry can't even sort out his camera, never mind being
uh,
IT.
it's
He's a
it's
handyman.
it's just
Uh,
not staying where it used to stay, right?
well, certainly the result was controversial. I'm sure you thought as well, Bob. I couldn't believe the Russian guy he just looked like a right solid. I'd never seen him before, but he looked like a right solid, typical Russian hardnut, who obviously probably has a very disciplined training camp like most of these guys. And he wasn't going nowhere when his Morell's punches seemed to be bouncing off him. And Morell seemed to be more content doing a bit of showboating and that, and smiling and laughing, which struck me as a bit nervousness when he realised this guy he was in with was a lot tougher than
Serious.
anticipated. What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, full, true, and plain disclosure here. I had money on David Morell. And honestly, even though I won some money, I don't feel like I should have because I thought David Morell sort of took it easy. Probably didn't make, well, I say probably, maybe he didn't know much about this guy. But one look at this Russian, and he looked like kind of a Spetsnaz guy who definitely wasn't there to showboat or take any guff from anybody. He was come forward all the time. He seemed up until towards the very end of the fight to be really quite impervious to anything David Morell was throwing at him. And I had said to Andy several times throughout the fight, I said, "Oh, my money's gone. I'd like my bets back. I'm enriching my bookie again. All that sort of moaning that we do when we think that our fighter is losing." And I was stunned at the end. I mean, I very, very rarely use the term robbery, but honestly, I felt like this was a robbery. I pocketed my winnings and thought, I don't deserve this, but I'm not going to give it away.
Just trying to find the punch stats. There's them there. Final punch stats. Oh, wait a minute. It says, yeah, punches landed. I think it was 129 to the Russian guy at 97 to Morell. The punch stats kind of told the story of what we thought. I felt, and I think there was talk of them. I think they mentioned a rematch, but I don't think Morell won't want to go anywhere near him again. I don't think, which is a shame.
Uh,
It's a shame for the Russian guy because I thought he was hard done by, and he was really respectful. I think we said after every round to touch gloves, and he didn't make any noise at the end about being wrong done or that. But I felt sorry for him. I thought he'd been hard done by.
yeah, I thought he was very hard done by. At the I would have thought a draw would have been a rip off. But to give it to Morell, I mean, Morell just didn't seem to. I mean, to my unqualified eye, kind of thing, he didn't seem to enter the ring with the requisite degree of seriousness. I think, it was almost like he thought that this was going to be a move around. Well, yeah, it was a move around, all right, not in the way he wanted it to be. So disappointing result, to be perfectly honest, and it sort of, it left a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth of, this favoring the A side fighter all the time, which, we've commented on so many times on our various different chats.
Yeah.
See that Russian guy is managed by Jim Cambosis.
Yeah. He's definitely, he's somebody who I sort of, I guess, was totally under my radar. And in fact, when I first saw his name, I thought it was the boxer from the Paris Olympics. It's like, what? Is this person now fighting as a male boxer? I was totally confused. I actually knew nothing about this guy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him either, to be honest. So, but I'd like to see where he goes next, though. I'd be interested to watch him fight again because he looks like a kind of similar to, what's his name?
Kovalev.
Name escapes me. Like, who's the guy? Remember Canelo beat at the end of his career?
Kovalev.
Kovalev, yes. Similar. No, it doesn't look like him or that, but he's just got a similar.
Yeah. I get what you mean.
No messing about, just totally straight to business, and he's there to fight.
He's the sort of guy that'll he's the sort of guy that'll he'll sort of stay under the radar for a bit and just be this guy who people keep matching against, and he ends up having a lot of these fights where he gets the wrong end of the decision, but everybody knows he's pushed the guy to the limit and possibly should have got the win himself. You know what I mean? Just one of those guys.
Like a Baluta type, Gerry, like a Baluta type or something like that.
Yeah, what I'm talking about.
An awesome gatekeeper for the division. Like if you can get through this guy, now you can actually, really sort of say that you are a, quasi elite fighter, because this guy would be a handful for anybody. He was very, very strong.
I think I'm going to have to watch that one.
The challenge they've got there is if he's gone under the radar and he's not a big ticket seller, he's a gatekeeper that nobody needs.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
I haven't seen the fight, but I have a random one for you all. Can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've not seen this, and this sounds like it wasn't that close, like it was a bad decision. Each of you, sorry to hijack just for 1 minute, what's the worst professional decision you've ever seen in your life?
Robin Reed and Sven Otka.
Good one.
Absolutely disgusting.
Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield won.
Jeff McCreesh and OJ Abrahams. That was a shocker for me. I mean, it was only like a 6-round fight, and Abrahams dropped Jeff McCreesh twice in the fight, totally boxed his ears off, and he got totally ripped off. I couldn't believe it.
Did any of these decisions, though, did the referee ever penalise a puncher a boxer for actually punching their opponent like they did with Robin Reed? That's the worst I've ever seen. It was terrible.
Edison Miranda and Arthur Abraham, that was a shocker as well. That was horrendous, was it not? Mine.
Gerry, any come to mind?
I hate this because there's so many that you could go back, and there's so many. I tend to want to.
Fury and Usyk, the first one.
That should never have been a split.
I'm being silly, being ridiculous. Of course.
Oh my God! So
was it a split decision? That one? There's one that was a split decision. That was like, whoa, wait a minute.
First one, was it not a split decision? And more people sort of thought the second one could have been an argument for a split decision. But no, what was that most recent really controversial?
Paddy Donovan, Lewis Crocker.
No. It'll come to me. Keep talking. I'll interrupt whenever I remember.
I thought the second Serrano Katy Taylor fight was a bad one. I thought, but for me, the worst decision where I've never understood it, and I never will, was the Jose Luis Ramirez against Pernell Whitaker in Paris. It was the first time Whitaker fought for a world title, and I think the unofficial scores, the magazines had Whitaker about 10-2 up or 11-1 up. It was like the most bizarre scoring I've ever seen in my life. It was WBC corruption at its absolute worst with the Mexican bias. That for me was disgraceful.
I mean,
If you haven't seen it, catch it. It'll just blow you into next week.
if you go back to the 1970s when British boxers traveled to Europe, there were some wild decisions there and some just bizarre circumstances around a lot of those fights. I have
Kirk and
the
Lang had a couple, didn't he, in Europe, and Simpson and Minter, those guys, and Finnegan, they had some,
yeah,
weird decisions.
Alan Minter had some very strange trips to Europe. I mean, people were having to travel to Europe with bodyguards and like it really sounds like the Wild West. It was a different time for sure. You mentioned Amanda Serrano and Katy Taylor. Did all you guys watch the trilogy fight the other night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Not
don't-
the-
I've just seen bits of it. I haven't seen the whole fight yet.
I was quite disappointed personally, but
It wasn't a barn burner, but it looks as like some of the previous fights I've had. Was it? It was
I was glad that it wasn't, to be perfectly honest.
seemed a bit
'Cause
more, bit more technical, maybe.
yes, it definitely was. I think they both went in with the same kind of mindset to try and have a tactical battle as opposed to a windmilling slugfest. So, I actually was glad to see it, although I would maybe say that perhaps the punch output was maybe a little bit disappointing on the back of it. But I mean, Jules mentioned it earlier. I thought, Katy Taylor lost the second fight. That's fair enough, but she's kind of put a stamp on it now by the trilogy. So, on paper it says she's won all three, but at the end of the day, she knows she's probably lost that one, so she can probably sleep easy now that she's got the third one. But I don't need to begin talking about this one if somebody else wants to.
Just quickly for me, just tactically, Katy Taylor in the corner were brilliant. Listening to them in the corner, she was stealing the end of the combos. She was landing the faster shots. The punch stats were similar. And I thought Serrano's corner was terrible. I thought they'd also gone for a more of a tactical approach, but it was Serrano who needed to make it into a fight. She was moving the wrong way. I thought the corner really let her down, and the training strategy let her down. But I'm a fan of Katy Taylor. I thought she got well beat in the second fight, but I think overall she's proved to be a better fighter than Serrano. And I think she's the greatest female boxer there's ever been. I know there's a few other shouts out there, but I think she's a phenomenal ambassador for sport. I really do.
I see that the greatest woman of all time tried to make it all about herself the following day on Twitter. We can always rely upon Claressa Shields to have something to say.
Female Floyd Mayweather said that back to front.
I pay very little attention to the social medias, after a fight, and I've not heard anything what she's got to say. And if her face did appear, I would just ignore it completely. I mean, I don't know if some of the opponents that she's beaten are absolutely dreadful, absolutely dreadful. You see, it's not even white collar level. Whereas if you look at Katy Taylor and some of the opponents she's beaten, it's a who's who of women's boxing. She's an outstanding athlete, and she's coming towards the end of her career, and she's just so dedicated. She stayed with a coach all the way through. I'm a fan. You can tell I'm a fan. Fantastic.
She's one of the few female boxers I would actually enjoy watching. I'm not against female boxing, but the talent pool's quite shallow, isn't it? I think most people acknowledge that.
No comment.
But I do like watching her. She's very good, isn't she? There's no doubt about it.
Do you think there's a chance she'll step in the ring with Chantel Cameron a third time? You think that's a possibility before she calls it a day?
I'd like to see it again. It was both of them were really good fights. I thought both decisions were fair. But
I thought Cameron moved up.
Yeah, I have this kind of thing with the Katy Taylors, and the thing that we have with Alexander Usyk. Do we have to keep them going on until they get beat? It's like, why does boxing always need a stain at the end of somebody's record? Why don't we let people go off into the sunset. I know she does it and she has a choice and it's up to her and she gets paid handsomely, but at some point she will find a nemesis and she will get beat once, twice, and then that's done. Just let her finish. Let her finish.
I think that's one of the reasons why I have such respect for Lennox Lewis. You know, he called it a day and he stuck to what he said.
He knew against Klitschko in that fight.
Bitterly, yeah.
It was over, yeah.
Done.
Same with Calzaghe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, another good example, an excellent example. For some reason, I always sort of forget to mention Calzaghe when it comes to that. Yeah, I mean, he's literally was unbeaten.
He's a fellow Welshman, Bob.
I know. That's why it's embarrassing that I forget about him.
Terry Griffiths talking there.
It's that line though, isn't it? You don't retire from boxing, boxing retires you, and I just think it's brutal. I just think, what a Cevic has had, like Usyk's exactly the same thing. And I'd love them to just finish. I mean, Floyd knew, didn't he? He knew he was slowing down. And I don't love the way that Floyd Mayweather signed off, but what a fantastic fight and what a way to go out. And you've proven it. And that's almost like, and I'm sorry to keep going on, but it's like the Canelo thing and the Benavides thing. Oh, he's ducking Benavides, he's ducking Benavides. It's like, there's always be a Benavides, and if Canelo beats Benavides, there'll be another one and another one and another one. We'll just insist on fighters.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be people who say if Usyk retires, he had retired to duck Moses Itama. I mean,
honestly, people will say stuff. People say, "Oh, you're ducking the Fury trilogy." People absolute nonsense, and this is
that's a pointless fight. The Fury trilogy, isn't it? That's just. Why is that even? Only because Fury's shouting about it and all his fanboys are singing the chorus, aren't they? But
because Fury's a narcissist and he needs to stay relevant.
I've been guilty myself.
His ego can't handle not being relevant, so you just mouth off.
I just think of, I'm close to boxers. I've been around boxers all my life, and I know they get paid handsomely, but who really is asking after the well-being and the health right now of Riddick Bowe? Fighters like Terry Norris, Donald Curry. These are really great fighters who are struggling in later years. I saw a video of Thomas Hearns this morning on Instagram. Thomas Hearns has had an operation and he's just starting to walk again. I think he's had an operation on his spine, and he's like the hitman. Oh, we love you, Tommy. We love you, Tommy. But we kept wanting you to see you fight. We kept wanting you to box and move up through the weight divisions. And he's punchy as hell. Thomas Hearns is as punchy as hell. And it's his choice. I know we've gone on a different direction now, but it's Tommy's choice to keep boxing. But how much, when Thomas Hearns about 9-10 years ago, I read that he'd auctioned a lot of his kind of like memorabilia and belts and robes and things because he was bankrupt.
Michael Spinks is another great example.
Yeah, and who cares about them? But we just want to keep squeezing until there's nothing left of boxers just for our gratification. It's wrong. It's really wrong.
I've been guilty myself of saying Canelo should fight Benavides, but I now recognise Canelo is at a point in his career where Calzaghe was at when people were shouting for him to fight Froch, or Steve Collins was at when people were shouting him to fight Calzaghe. Or you could go back they need to just get the big money fights at the end and drift off instead of this.
Well, it ruins legacy. Look at Roy Jones Jr. I mean, if Roy Jones Jr. had quit earlier, we would all be saying he's one of the greatest of all time.
He's the best, mate. I've said that to you before. I think he's the best fighter there's ever been. Roy Jones, he's best.
One of the worst things I'd ever seen was when Enzo McAnally knocked him out.
That was in Russia,
horrendous.
I think.
It was in Russia.
See with Roy Jones Jr. Do you guys think there's a question mark hanging over his greatness with the failed drug test issues? I mean, how strong was testing back then? Was he juiced up in a lot of these fights where he looked amazing? I don't know, but I think he did not fail a test, but the opponent failed the test as well. So nothing.
Richard Hall, it was a Richard Hall fight. You can only deal with what you know, Andy, and he did fail a test, and the levels in his system were very, very high. I always wondered, if I'm being honest, and I'm saying wondered. I'm not. James just said he's a big Roy Jones Jr. fan, and I was at some love watching Jones Jr. But when he moved up to fight Andy Ruiz, the way he was muscled and he looked so solid. I know he wasn't a natural heavyweight, but
John Ruiz.
I personally had some real question marks around how he got to heavyweight, from a guy who started at 11 stone 6. And he was actually a light middleweight as an amateur. He was 11 stone as an amateur. And then he went up and beat heavyweight in John
Ruiz.
That was suspicious for me. Very suspicious.
It might have been the same method that Evan Fields used as well, aka Evander Holyfield, because he's another one who allegedly cheated.
Yeah. And it's one of those things
big for him, though.
For me, if you've had a positive test, then there's a bit. I mentioned Canelo. Then there's a question mark around your career. And whilst I hear you with Holyfield and others, and I think you wonder, unless someone's failed, then I'll always give them the benefit of the doubt if there's no actual official stain at the side of the name.
I must say, and I know this is going to be controversial because there's a fight coming up in next Saturday, but I always am amazed at how a heavyweight boxer can gain 20 or so pounds of apparent muscle. I'm looking here very hard at Daniel Dubois, and I know that he's a clean athlete. He's never failed a test, but whatever diet he's on to pack on that much muscle is it must be quite an impressive diet.
Well, I'm just going to jump in there. Not always is it muscle gain. So first of all, you'd have to say that. In terms of Dubois, I've never seen him look any different. If I can remember, someone can correct me there if that's the case. So I say that as well as somebody who personally I'm not a fan. But in terms of other guys, so that is definitely not the case that they're packing on muscle, right? Because there is some guys who, when they moved up to heavyweight, have just looked like flabby sacks of excrement. And I'll give you an example of somebody who got done for drugs, doping, basically twice, as far as I know. And he even said famously, whenever he was asked about it in the papers, "Do I look like I use steroids?" Can anyone guess who it was?
James Tony.
Yeah.
No, Tony Thompson. Is it close? There was a T in there.
Who was it?
Yeah.
And he said, do I look like I use steroids? And no, he doesn't. But, there's all kinds of performance-enhancing drugs out there. And, they're not necessarily for packing on muscle. Just sort of throwing that out there.
Nandrolone, for example, that Fury, popped with, I believe. That's just an endurance thing, isn't it?
Somebody I noticed recently who packed on, when his weight was announced, I expected him to look a wee bit flabby. Was Joe Parker, but he looked solid, and he was 19 stone when he fought McCauley, wasn't he? I was quite shocked at his size. Yeah, I was quite shocked at his size. But
he went from, I think it was 249 to 267, or maybe a pound or so off there. But yeah, and he looked very, very solid with it. If I gain 20 pounds, I guarantee you I don't look solid.
You're missing the most obvious one, gents. Anthony Joshua. He looked like a boy when he was in the Olympics, and then suddenly he's got a square jaw, gut distension, and everybody was going on about these therapeutic use exemptions. It does make you think, doesn't it?
I thought it was just because he got into his man strength.
Yeah, probably. He's not Fury, is he? But yeah.
They can only speculate of what might be going on.
What's next for Huey, though?
Sharp, Gerry.
He's maybe going for a kebab with Jamie.
So long as we don't start talking about trainers who wear tight t-shirts and advertise electric cars, if we are, I'm out.
Well, I don't want to talk about Huey Fury not getting his flowers, or Lawrence Coley, or.
I mean, Joe Parker's been working with that questionable Doctor Who's, was he not? But I mean, we can only speculate.
Which doctor, Andy? You talk about
Dr. Usman. Dr. Usman. Conor Benn was involved with, and I think Fury's been involved with him as well.
I think with me, as I've said, I just it's only the ones who have a history of popping. Can I ever really be suspicious of the others? It's like you just wonder. I mean, the other one I wonder about. We've all seen the photograph of the first Manny Pacquiao Marquez fight at the weigh-in.
Yeah.
two slim down featherweights. I think they were featherweights at the time. And then I think it was the third fight or the fourth fight. And then there's a picture of them both on the weigh-in, and they just looked absolutely huge. And I thought, listen, it is science, it is science. You can, but you know yourself to put real lean muscle on. And those were fighters who put serious muscle on. And it was really when Floyd went in very, very hard with Manny Pacquiao that after he did, De La Hoya, Cotto, and Hatton, the knockouts stopped, didn't they? They just stopped. I'm not suggesting any foul play. I'm just saying it was an interesting an end to him really just poleaxing opponents. I thought
Probably Mayweather saw that himself, and that's why he pursued that line. It's like you say, unless they fail a test, we can only speculate.
You can only say,
Yeah.
I can only, and like I said, we're back onto the Roy Jones thing. He did put muscle on against Ruiz. He looked very, very good at that weight. He looked really, really solid.
Yeah.
And that's why I just thought he didn't, move up to cruiserweight. He went straight to heavyweight. Michael Spinks didn't look like that when he went up from 12 and a half stone. I thought Larry Holmes looked like a barrel, and he was working with Mackie Shulston, who was a really, good at what he did. But Jones just looked big. So I'm allowed to say it about Jones because Jones busted.
He was ripped to shreds, wasn't he, as well, Jules? Yeah.
Was
And if he
absolutely
come back,
shredded at heavyweight. And then if you remember what happened then was he dropped back down to light heavyweight, and his punch resistance went completely
Yeah, he
because
just got knocked out, didn't he? Yeah.
burned lead muscle, didn't he? He had the first fight with Tarver, very lucky to get that decision. And then he got stretched by Tarver and obviously Glencoff Johnson. And he burned all that lean muscle. He lost all that lean muscle in such a short window of time. How did he put it on and how did he drop it? I've got question marks around Roy Jones. I know you love him, but
Yeah, I know I do love him, but I see your point, yeah, because
he
I'm
should have,
always talking.
he should
Sorry,
have
go
really
on
come
now.
down. He should have really come down to cruiserweight. He should never have gone back down to 12-7, and he might have had a nicer end to his career, I think.
the classic example. I know we've gone off on a bit of a different course now. I think it's a good discussion, by the way. Was Roberto Duran at lightweight was shredded. He moved up to welterweight. He looked good, but he wasn't shredded. He went
Yeah.
up to light middleweight and he started looking a bit stocky.
Yeah.
And he went up to middleweight and he looked quite overweight, did Duran, didn't he? And it was
Yeah, he did.
ring genius allowed to carry him, and of course he beat Barkley at 168. But Duran, as a lightweight, was a phenomenal puncher, and he didn't take that power up. He had stoppages, had the Cuevas, Davy Moore, etc. But he didn't take that power up. He took his ring craft up and his genius up.
He was a monster puncher. I think he fought a guy called Ray Lampton, just off the top of my head.
That quote, you're going to say the quote. Yeah.
He levered him. Absolutely, he just destroyed him. If it's the guy I'm thinking of.
Yeah, the quote, he said the next time they carried him out of the ring in the 14th round, Duran knocked him out cold. It was brutal. And Duran said in Spanish, and obviously they interpreted it, and it said, the next time I fight him, they won't be carrying him to the hospital, they're carrying him to the morgue. And it was
I'm not surprised.
People went, oh, that's and
I'm glad I was right, because that was off the top of my head, so I'm not losing it yet.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, I'm not being patronising. You know your boxing, Jamie, backwards, but that was before your time, right? So
yeah, massively, yeah, 1990, I was born.
Yeah, good for you. But yeah, so Duran didn't carry up the power, and I guess I'm thinking of, without any accusations, I'm thinking about Manny Pacquiao. He started at flyweight, didn't he? He started as a boy. It was a boy, of course, but he started at flyweight. He went through the rankings, and when he did what he did to Hatton, and then that was impressive. And then when he did that to Cotto, and no one else did that to Cotto, did they? You have to ask questions. No accusation.
He beat the crap out of De La Hoya as well. I know De La Hoya was a ghost, but still, it's still quite.
Cotto was at his best, and Hatton was, I'd come off the Mayweather fight, but he was at his best. That you have to ask those questions, and then all of a sudden there's the finger pointing, and the knockouts just stop completely, don't they?
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see if OU carries his power up, if he moves up any further weights.
Yeah.
Featherweight's an extra, I'm thinking.
I was just wondering, this might be the last time that the five of us get together before the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship of the World. And wondering if anybody wants to venture off who they want to win and who they think will win. Just a brief one.
We've only got a minute left.
Oh, I want Usyk to win. I'm going to bet on Dubois in case I'm crying, and it'll put some money in my pocket, which will make me feel happier.
Usyk will stop him. Usyk will stop him in 9 rounds.
I hope so.
I think Usyk 11 rounds. I think Dubois will last a wee bit longer, but Usyk's way too clever. Dubois will get all confused again and go into a shutdown.
Gerry?
It's very similar, I guess, to how I'm thinking, Andy. I will say this. Dubois is going to try slightly different tactics this time because did you ever go to school with somebody who was a bit not the sharpest tool in the box, and but they were strong? And if you've ever gotten in a fight with somebody like that, sometimes they don't know when they're beat, and they just kept coming and coming and coming. Like they were okay. Dubois has got a bit of that about him, and I think he's going to probably try even harder than he did in the first fight.
Because 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Just for the hell of it, just to get the comments going, I'm going to call Father Time on